Welcome back to Bunny Banter, the first and only podcast for everything Killer Bunnies. I'm your host Matt, here with co-host Mikey.
Hello.
And as a guest, we're honored to have the prophet himself again, Chris Lane.
Hey.
What are we talking about today, Mikey?
Today we are talking about more cards from the upcoming London booster.
Yeah, so this is our second episode. Well, you could count the third episode for discussing the upcoming London booster set to release in late October, early November, somewhere in there. Probably the latter, knowing release dates. But today we'll be discussing uh, a few more cards. So let's get right into it. First, we're going to discuss the 4 weapons that will be released in London boosters. So for those on the YouTube, I have the pictures going. But for those on the other podcast sites, I'll list them off here. We have Soggy Bottom, a level 13 weapon. Tipsy Phone Boxes, a level 15 weapon. Dodgy Bangers, a level 17 weapon. And Daleks, a level 19 weapon. So they're all pretty standard weapons. If anyone's has far too much knowledge on previous expansions, they will recognize that the weapon levels mirror those of the stainless steel expansion, at least slightly. uh, so Chris, what are your thoughts on these weapons? Gain more of these,
Very high numbers.
yeah, gain more of the clear
Um,
dye weapons.
yep. They all look pretty good. Um, Soggy Bottom, of course, is a great reference to Great British Bake Off. But overall, I mean, it's nice to have some more level 13 and 15 weapons. I can't even think if we have a 15 weapon. We probably do.
I'm sure we do. I
I
just
can't
don't
think of
remember
one
which
off the
one
top of
specifically.
It's nice to have more
Yeah,
of
would
the
have
clear
been
die rolls for sure.
Acid Rain was one of the 15s in stainless
hmm
steel. There were more than that, but I'd have to actually look them up. What are your
And
thoughts,
I can't,
Mikey? Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say for 13, all I can think of is the snowball. But
Yeah,
like I
that
don't know,
one's in.
is there a neutral 13 besides that? I can't.
Oh,
Besides the
13
new
is
one?
the snowball. Stainless steel actually doesn't have a neutral 13. It's Pumpkin Ridge. I'm trying to think if there is a neutral level 13. Now that I think
I
about it,
can't think of one.
that's that's a bit interesting that we didn't have one previously. But we're perhaps missing one. Yeah, the other example would be Boomerang, which is also not neutral. So this could potentially be our first standard level 13 weapon. So
Mhm.
that's exciting. Or not, one of the
Mhm.
two. What are your thoughts, Mikey?
Well, they're weapons. I mean, there's not a lot to say about the weapons themselves. I mean, like we talked about, they're high, so that's cool. I like the artwork, especially on the tipsy phone boxes. First I want to know what is he holding in his hand. I want to know if that's a reference to something or something. But also it reminds me of the episode of Keeping Up Appearances where Hyacinth gets out of the car to use the phone booth and the man goes in there. She starts slapping and banging on the phone box, and Richard gets out. I think it's the first time he's ever raised his voice to Hyacinth ever, and he's, Hyacinth, get back in the car! And the guy tells him that he deserves like a Medal of Honor or something like that for yelling at his wife. It's pretty good.
There we go. Even though we don't have a Keeping Up Appearances reference, we found a pseudo reference.
There we go.
There we are. We can be satisfied now. One thing I want to briefly mention is we have higher level weapons with the clear dye, and we have standard weapons with the black dye, of course. And there are some disadvantages and advantages to either. The clear dye weapons have the advantage typically of there being fewer rerolls opportunities because of course there is no clear pawn. Well, there's currently opportunity for 2 black pawns. Later, there'll be opportunity for 4 black pawns. So that's interesting distinction there. The other difference, of course, is with their higher levels. Even though statistically something like level 15 weapon would have the same strength as a level 9 weapon, the 15 weapon obviously costs more to buy back from the Rooney's Weapons Emporium. Uh, an interesting story that we could bring up is that 3-player game we had with Frank Mikey, because it's very common within the community to think buying back weapons is not efficient, and that would be true. For example, spending 19 to buy back Daleks to kill a bunny that would cost 10 to resurrect is quite inefficient. However, Frank, as an excellent passive player, was able to justify having a triplet and a rank, playing 3 cards per turn as a passive player, by purchasing 3 level 1 weapons every turn and playing them on himself. Just to cycle cards while still justifying the passive strategy. So perhaps I had a thought with the Daleks specifically, just because of the Doctor Who reference, of course. So of course I have to pick this weapon specifically. What if I took the aggressive passive hybrid strategy that I've been testing recently and spend $19 to buy back the Daleks and be able to threaten single target removal while wasting my money, which Dala is a liability with that strategy anyways. Perhaps. And then I can exterminate all of the bunnies.
Oh dear.
That'll be fun. I'm going to test it out. It's probably not going to be any good, but it's exciting. Any more thoughts that we have on these weapons before we want to move on?
Buy the defense cards.
Buy the defense cards, that's true. They're more efficient, and we're getting more in London, so they'll be even more efficient, and that's terrifying.
Buy them!
Buy them. Got it. Okay, so next we have pound sterlings, which we actually don't have access to bunny bits, but we can assume that pound sterlings are equivalent to dollar, similar to how bunny bucks from Kinder Bunnies are equivalent to dollar. The exchange rate's 1 for 1. Any thoughts on the addition of another form of dollar for thematic reasons?
Is there anything that requires pounds instead of dollar?
Not in this expansion. Although if they are equivalent with dollar, then it's just like how buyback from Kinder Bunnies says 5 bunny bucks is the cost. You can use $5. The exchange rate should be equivalent, but who knows? Jeff might throw a curveball at us when he releases cake batter and be like, "Oh, this card specifically requires pound sterlings."
What if the exchange rate for the pound sterling to Kabbalah dollar is equal to the exchange rate of £1 British pound to $1 American dollar? Whoa!
What's the current exchange rate? I'm going to look it up. Pound to US dollar.
It's slightly off.
1 pound is 1.23 of a US dollar. So there you go. If you get the 5 pound card, it's actually worth $6. Make the house roll right now. Don't do that. Sounds like a bad idea. But that would be interesting, to say the very least. Because that totally wouldn't slow down gameplay, wouldn't be confusing at all for new players.
The only thing I thought of was for the cards that make you lose dollar, are you gonna lose your pound sterlings as well?
We can assume that's the case. Although we won't know for sure until we get the bunny bits.
It would be really cool if they didn't get lost.
That would be interesting. Similar to how, I mean, I say similar even though they're completely different mechanics. Similar to how if you lose all your dollar from bankruptcy, you still have all of your medals, because of course medals are a separate mechanic.
But then you really couldn't justify buying stuff for dollar if you
Yeah.
have pounds.
If that was the case, you would always pick the pounds, which
You'd have to have a
is
conversion center. Maybe there will be a conversion
this
market.
shouldn't be as far as we know from the component list of London, but
You could have a seventh market and have it,
seventh market.
and then have it. You could trade it, and there'd be other like you could close that market. You could increase the currency value.
Quite possible. We might be
That would be
getting
really
another
cool.
shop eventually. Who knows?
They
We
could
will.
cheat you out of your money too. You know, they could just take a lot
And
of
it could be
stock.
another exchange like your metals are.
We have an exchange. Yeah, have an exchange rate for bunny bucks, pounds sterlings, and dollar. I actually kind of like that idea, where you have the currency exchange.
And then you could make it like the old American way and have the dollar be worth a certain amount of gold or something.
Perhaps.
Mm.
And then have inflation.
Inflation. As more
Yeah.
dollars drawn, it becomes worth less. Because we definitely need that calculation in Killer Bunnies.
Oh dear, that would be.
I do like the idea of a currency exchange, so that's kind of cool. But it kind of breaks certain mechanics. But
Mm,
or more so, it makes it very specific on how you have to get change.
yeah. The question is, why? I mean, I guess to keep it in the theme, you could create pound sterling, but other than that, like, why make the pound sterling?
No, I suppose since the rest of the expansion was built in London, it would have made sense to have dollar, which
I
is
suppose.
basically US dollars. So for
Yeah.
thematic reasons, pretty much. And they look pretty cool.
Eurocentricity, yay!
Watch and see if if what's the carat on the pound sterling on the image. Do we know of that
Yeah,
carat?
it's
What?
Beth.
Yeah, but it's Beth. That's what I thought.
Oh, it's Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah.
So it's bad.
So
But the carat is
watch
Beth.
Beth be given a special ability where she gives you double value for your pound sterlings.
Ooh.
That'd be an uh interesting rule, but we'll have to find out. Wait till we get the bunny bits.
Hmm.
Okay, so now moving on into the actual cards that require discussion. The first one here is Mushy Peas. It's a run card that's aggressive. It says, may be used once by a player to immediately use any number of the P cards saved by all of his opponents. At the end of the player's turn, any P cards that he chose not to use will remain with their original owners. Initial thoughts on this one, Mikey?
Okay, sorry, I gotta read that. I lost my page. Okay, maybe used once by a player to immediately. What is that? Immediately use any number of
Yeah,
P cards?
so if I have a saved Supply Surprise and Carrot Top Casino, you play
Uh-huh.
Mushy Peas, you get to use both of those.
Well, that's exciting. That's good for you. That's good for me if I play it. Now, if you play it, it's not good for me. I do
Don't
have to
save your specials.
don't save your specials. I do have to point out that okay, so when I was a little kid, my mom, she always made frozen peas, or we'd have fresh peas. Well, I'd go to my grandma's house, and at my grandma's house, she made canned peas. Those were so disgusting. I always dreaded going over there for supper. We'd have the same thing. We'd have venison, rice, and canned peas. And the
Feels
venison and
bad.
the rice was good, but the canned pea, oh dear, no. Anyway, back to the actual story or topic. I think that's kind of neat. Also, if you look in the lower right-hand corner, there's a ball with a red stripe, but it's not yellow.
That's going to cause a lot of debates, I can imagine right now, because of course
Oh,
we know that the yellow ball with red stripe has interactions with the mysterious places, but this in fact is a green ball with red stripe because of the discoloration. Surely it must be intended, but for all surely it must be intended, but for all literal purposes it would not count.
That's terrible.
So it's going to cause a giant debate. And that's going to, for sure, require Jeff clarification.
Well, I can give you the answer. I'm gonna make my little prophecy.
Okay, a prophecy from Chris.
We are getting a green ball with red stripe.
What would it be
Clearly,
attached to?
Clearly.
because you can't assume it means yellow because it's not yellow.
Of course, yeah.
And I understand that it's supposed to look like a pea because it's mushy peas. However, we had cards in the early expansions with the yellow ball that meant nothing to us until we got the yellow ball. Therefore, we are getting green ball with red stripe.
Not in this set. Not in this booster though.
Not this
No.
booster.
This is a future. This is coming.
This is
It's
coming.
coming. Just like Matthew, what's the earliest expansion we got yellow ball with red stripe
Oh, it's
without
right from
actually
starter.
getting? It's in starter. So
Maybe
we
not
didn't
the
know what that
earliest
meant.
editions of Starter, but it is in the Zeta printings of Starter.
Yeah. So the item of discussion came before the actual cards were relevant.
Yeah.
Jupiter was in Starter as well. They're both on Bad Karma.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose it is technically possible that we could get green ball with red stripe interactions.
I wonder what it would be attached to because the yellow ball with red stripes is linked with the mysterious plays. So like, what
Maybe the
would
green
you
will be
do?
attached to Zodiacs.
Has to be a new mechanic, I would imagine. Maybe
Mm.
from the radioactive expansion or whatever it was called. Let me look up the name. Spoilers alert.
Maybe
Radioactive
it could be,
Robots booster deck. Maybe that's the one coming after Cake Batter.
Mhm.
Although I appreciate the prophecy, but I think this is meant to be the same mechanic as Yellow Ball and Red Stripe by my prediction.
probably
Probably.
for now.
But it will require Jeff clarification just because of the obvious intended purpose is very different from the obvious literal purpose. So Jeff, when you were listening, because we know you listen, then send us the answer. Is the green ball with red stripe equivalent to the yellow ball with red stripe? The ultimate question.
Washington says no.
If he says no, then that's the literal artistic interpretation. So that'd be interesting. Something I realized just as Mikey was giving his answer was here's yet another high value card that starts with the letter M for alliteration situation, which of course lets you replay
yay.
cards from the discard pile with the same first letter as your first name. And we
Although
already
this
have.
one's not a good replay though because you're using the.
I mean, yeah, if it gets played
Well,
early game and then it gets played, you
yeah.
can play it again later game maybe. I don't know. It might be situational.
I feel like you're not gonna play it unless there's at least 2 P cards.
Yeah, that's realistic.
Unless
But
there's a key card you really want.
yeah,
I can understand if there's 2 better ones, like if there's a ultimate supply surprise and like a lemon squeezy on board, I would totally do it.
oh yeah.
That feels good. But if there's a couple, Mad Bakers, maybe not. Unless you're just trying to get rid of them.
I've become disillusioned with the Mad Baker. I used to like it, and now I'm just kind of like, it's a thing, it's there.
It almost requires the red pawn. The baker does.
Yeah.
And if your opponent has a red pawn, they're not going to play it on you. If you have a red pawn,
I
you're
like-
still a little bit scared to play it on
I
yourself.
like seeing the brown pawn in mushy peas. That looks
Yeah.
nice.
We will be getting more brown pawn support. We do know. We don't know what it is yet, though. It's not on this booster, but I'm excited.
Oh, maybe the green ball with red stripe will refer to P cards since I'm mushy peas.
Possibly.
It is in a weird location though too. Like the other cards with yellow ball with red stripe all were within the picture of the card. If I remember right.
Sounds right in most cases.
And this one's just like in the corner, like an extra type of card kind of thing. To me, that's what it looks like.
We'll have to wait for Jeff clarification. Another thing to note is that this card maybe won't be too relevant right now, but two expansion. Oh, let's see. No, we're getting Cake Batter, then Radioactive Robots, and then after that, Almond Crisp. As we get more pawns and more P cards, that's going to be exciting because that's going to give
That's
us
a
more of the super P cards like Super Surprise, but
that's
for
a
the Conquest variants.
that's a sad opportunity missed by Jeff not to call it Rhubarb Crisp.
Rhubarb. Well, that would have been beautiful.
Very epic. Almond's okay though.
There we go. Message Jeff right now. The next flavor deck must have rhubarb.
Rhubarb.
I
I
feel
had a
like I
thought.
would rather be part of naming the expansion than creating a card.
Ha!
Well, maybe not.
Yeah.
Uh,
Naming the
I've
expansions is all about finding the buzzwords like Maple Sparkle, Almond Crisp.
I mean, all I really care about is burrowing bunnies. So what are you
Can't
gonna
make
do?
a
Banana
custom card.
I know, I know. I still someday Jeff will
One
honor me
thing
with that.
that we could, if we knew it, we could clarify whether this is the yellow ball or not, because there is supposedly a pattern of the ID numbers that have the yellow ball with red stripe.
True.
Supposedly, or there's some sort of correlation between all of the cards. And
Well, Jeff told us that in our phone call with him
yeah,
that one
yeah,
time.
but I don't know it. I looked at all the
We
ID
couldn't
numbers,
get
I
it from
couldn't
you.
see a pattern.
I bet I could find. You should send them to me. I'll look at it.
I'll send them to Chris and maybe he can find it. But if this card fits under that pattern, whatever it is, then we can confirm without further Jeff clarification that this is in
Mhm.
fact the yellow ball with red stripe, or at least has the same mechanics.
Yeah.
Um, Something
By
that
the
was
way,
brought up to me in the Discord was how does this card interact with pawns? Will it be the pawns of the opponent that let you replay their P cards, or will it be your pawns that let you replay your P cards?
hmm,
Or will it be neither? Maybe pawns aren't correlated.
that's a good question.
Hopefully the bunny bits will clarify.
This card is terrible for people who are red-green colorblind, though.
I suppose.
You'd never be able to tell if there was that ball. I mean, I suppose you could see the little line. But yeah,
Yeah,
I've been
that's
waiting to
true.
say that.
There we go. Jeff, you have made a terrible error. Actually, that's Jonathan. Jonathan, you made a terrible error. Red, green, colorblind. You gotta stop the printing of London right now. So that this one card relevance with the one interaction relevance will be safe for those who are colorblind.
Mhm.
Hopefully in those situations, will have enough passive players who'll be nice enough to let the colorblind person know that he has that opportunity.
There you go.
There we go. Anything else we want to say on this card?
Don't save your P cards.
Don't save your P-cards. There we go. We finally got a punish card for saving. Wow, we already had so many punish cards for saving specials, but specifically for the P-cards.
Hmm.
It
Next.
probably devalues the pawns too.
Yeah, I suppose. Next card here, Number Wing. Run card, non-aggressive. This card text is a bit long, so I'll try not to get lost in it. May be used by a player who starts by shouting the card identification number at the bottom of one of the cards in his 5-card hand. The card is placed face up on the table and cannot be used again. Any other player may read a card identification number from one of the cards in his 5-card hand that starts with the last digit of the previous card's number. This process continues until no player can play another card. The last player to read a card identification number may choose 3 carrots.
Wow.
So that's a mouthful.
Yay.
What are your thoughts, Chris?
Number Wang.
Number Wang. That's number Wang.
For those that don't know what it is, you just go on YouTube and look up just type Number Wang and you will find the clip.
It's an
And then you can watch
excellent,
the history of
It,
number one.
it is quite entertaining. I think
excellent
it's fun.
example of British humor.
It also helps get the game moving a little faster because it is a 3-carat choose a carrot and it's a neutral, so it's nice.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good turn 1 play.
That's
Gets
true.
everybody going really fast.
Oh dear, yeah, that would be good actually.
Yeah, it gets people excited.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, it's a great card.
Yeah.
Nothing bad to say about it for sure. Is that for the people that I mean, you just watch the video and you'll understand what it's going to be like in the game.
Yeah. This card is overflowing with flavor. It definitely fits the title correctly.
Man,
Yeah.
you can put a link in the description.
I can put a link. I'll if I remember, I'll do it. What I'm really excited about this card is, first of all, it's non-aggressive, so you don't even need a bunny to play it. And second of all, it's guaranteed that someone is going to get 3 carrots. Because
Yeah.
it's whoever said the last number. So, often you will see conditional choose 3 carrots or choose X number of carrots, and there'll be, obviously the most common condition is that you have a bunny. But there's others that are even higher conditions, like choose a carrot Zodiac, which has, you have to get a very specific roll. This one, guaranteed that at least someone is going to get 3 carrots, and maybe they're thankful that you played the card.
Mhm.
What do you think, Mikey?
I had a couple thoughts. The first one is Chris had said that it would speed the game up, but also I think it kind of would neutralize it possibly because yeah, you get 3 carrots, but also you have to sit and play the whole number weighing thing, which could take a while, and dependent upon the how many cards you go through. If you have 4 people playing and say everybody can do it with all of the 5 cards in their hand, well then that's gonna be a while. But another thing that I thought of, I don't remember who it was, but somebody was talking to you and me, Matt, and they asked about if there were little side games in Killer Bunnies. And you had mentioned, I think it was you, who had mentioned that there something, and I don't remember what it was. But this would be an example of something that would be kind of a little game within the game,
Yeah,
and
a little
that's
bit.
kind of neat.
Yeah, other examples of those little side games, quote unquote, would be things like the spin to win card where you're spinning the die like a top, or the oh, I can't remember the name now. The one where you stack all the dice, all the 8 dice to
Oh
try to
yeah.
get care within the 12 seconds, or B flat where you try to balance your house key. We have plenty of those. This one has all the players very involved. I'm wondering how long this would actually take in practice,
I
because
think the big part of it is having to explain what we're actually doing in the card.
yeah, the first time we played it
It's
probably
going to be
take longer.
painful the first time. It's going to be painful.
Yeah. Um, I wonder if there's in the bunny bits a punishment for playing a card out of order.
Hmm.
For example, if the most recent card ended in a 4, you play card ID 512. Is there some sort of punishment? Maybe? Are you out? Who knows? Do we say that's number wang and move on with our lives?
Oh dear.
Yes,
Yes. Sounds about right.
that's exactly how it's going to go.
I wonder how many cards it's actually going to take on average to resolve this card. Because because the next card has to start with the digit that the last one ended in, presumably we're not counting the leading zeros, otherwise that'd be even much more difficult.
Yeah.
It might be difficult to, it might end very abruptly, if you play 1207 and nobody has a card within 700. Oh, I thought of something. I have done a terrible thing.
Uh,
Because we know, because it is common, well, because it's relatively doable enough to memorize the ID ranges of each expansion. The player of the card could strategically do something along the lines of, knowing my opponent's hand, I know they'd have nothing that starts with an 8, because they have nothing within the 800 range. So then they
oh,
start with their 1208, and then they instantly get the 3 carrots. That requires
gotcha.
a lot of knowledge.
Hmm. Hmm.
Other than that, I was thinking about strategically, since it's only the last player that matters, maybe you decide not to play your cards right away.
Yep.
But that delays the game, so I'm afraid of that strategy. Anything else we want to say on this one?
Hmm.
Okay, that's Number Wang.
Yeah.
Moving on, this is a simpler card here. Queen to Queens level 3, a bunny modifier, run non-aggressive. It says may be placed under any single or double British bunny in the bunny circle, turning it into a bunny triplet. So just as a reminder, London Booster will have 9 British bunnies, which is a very large amount of bunnies for this size of booster. And of course, 3 of them will be singles and 3 of them will be doubles. This card has a 6 card relevance with those bunnies, of course. What are your thoughts, Mikey?
Um, I think it's interesting that it. Sorry, I'm looking something up while I'm doing this. I think it's interesting that it only can be applied to British bunnies. So if you have that specific card and you don't have a British bunny, or nobody has a British bunny, a single or double, it doesn't work on the triplets, then you're kind of sunk on that one. And then that's one that you could either save and continue to save for the entire game in hopes you get one, or you could just discard it. And I don't know what I would do in that situation. Also, I like the multi-level chest. That's cool.
Yeah, the 3D chess, I believe, is reference to Big Bang Theory. I
Okay.
believe
Well,
Queen,
that's a reference to that. It's not quite. Um,
or isn't
I know
Queen,
what you're thinking
isn't
of, Matthew.
isn't Queen to Queens level 3 one of the quotes?
Let me look.
Yes, but that the whole 3D chess thing is from another
Well,
movie or
yeah,
show.
yeah, of course, yeah.
Big Bang Theory is just it's in it. I believe it's from. I don't want to say
Star
Star
Trek.
Trek without offending Jeff if
It's
it's not
Star
Star
Trek.
Trek.
It's
It's got to
Star
be
Trek.
Star Trek.
I looked it
Probably.
up. It's Star Trek.
Yeah, it's a Star Trek chess game.
Yep.
Any thoughts that you had on this card, Chris?
If I drew it, I wouldn't be very happy. To me, it feels like one of those cards that you get the modifier and you place on the bunny and it makes it double weapon. It's like one of those purple fungus ones. Or it makes me feel like I don't know. I just when you have a modifier that doesn't necessarily do a whole lot, unless you have a specific example of something, it always feels bad when I draw it.
Yeah, it's difficult
Like
to.
it's kind of like the card when you draw it and it doubles your clovers. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't feel that great unless it's a magical experience where you already have 5 clovers.
Yeah, that's a good comparison there is the Miracle Growth is the card, which of course has a 12 card relevance because there are 12 Lucky Clover cards throughout the deck. This one
Yeah,
has a 6 card relevance because there's only 6 single or
yeah.
double
It
British
doesn't
bunnies.
it doesn't feel good right now. It might get better, but even the cards that make other cards triplets that you have, they just don't feel that great unless you have a established board already.
Possibly. There's also the difference between comparing Miracle Growth and Queens to Queens level 3 is that, of course, you can buy back slash resurrect single and double British bunnies.
It might have some trade value, but I don't think it's. I don't want to say it's unplayable because you have to get it through a run. You have to run it through 2 times and hope your British bunny's still alive at the end.
Which it should be in full set, just because single and double British bunnies won't be huge targets. Unless this card sees a lot of play, but how would it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a two-card triplet doesn't. A two-card triplet doesn't feel that good when you already have so many ways to get a triplet easier.
Yeah. Full set does have very easy ways to accomplish a triplet, and this just isn't one of them. Perhaps if you were playing, as Jeff suggested, from Conquest through London, perhaps it would be much more relevant if you left out the Quest series and played that shorter variant, or if you played Remix in London, or if you added London to starter set, because I suppose that's an option as well.
I
Yeah.
think it's a meme card.
A little bit.
I think it's something to add to the bucket list at this point. I don't think it's going to be relevant until we have like 10 to 15 more British bunnies.
If we get 10 to 15 more British bunnies.
Exactly.
Now here's an interesting thing I just noticed. The gradient on this card is all off. Why do we have a spiral gradient?
That's a good question.
It looks trashy.
Proper gradients for run cards is usually vertical gradients. So there's a big question here on why is this card specifically have the spiral gradients? Or not even gradients, just spirals.
That might
Maybe
be a
that's
Star Trek thing.
It could
That's
be a
what I
Star
was
Trek
thinking.
thing, yeah. Quite possibly.
Hmm.
So here we have an example of a lower value card relatively, which is necessary for lots of strategies. The passive and the neutral strategies both benefit from some lower value cards, passive more than neutral, of course. So perhaps the difficult thing is that this low value card gives you a triplet, which is often a dangerous thing to do within the passive strategy, but perhaps this functions best within a neutral strategy. Perhaps.
Perhaps.
Thinking specifically within the context of full set, maybe this triplet is less likely to be targeted than other triplets because it's kind of like a congratulations, you accomplished a 2-card combo triplet. You know, it's like, okay. Is anyone actually going to target that? Probably. But there's bigger targets on the board, more than likely.
Yeah. That's interesting.
It'll be interesting to see how it works. I mean, if you would have asked me, what was it, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, if you would have asked me if buying back level 1 weapons for 70 turns was optimal strategy, then I would have debated it. But the passive strategy makes a lot of things viable that wouldn't necessarily be so. So maybe Frank would use this to get a hard to get triplet, and therefore he uses the state of it being hard to get to
You feel bad
justify
for
cycling
killing it.
cards. Yeah, you feel bad for killing it. Someone accomplished this amazing thing that doesn't
Matthew,
actually give him much value, and I don't know.
It's summoning Gate Guardian is what it is. This is what we're talking about.
It's a bit easier than that. At least it's actually an upgrade.
That
It's not like you're downgrading the bunny.
Ooh.
Too soon. There we go. Officially established. Killer Bunnies is a more balanced game than Yu-Gi-Oh! In case there's any question.
Oh, obviously.
Shots fired for any Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans listening to this podcast.
It all went out of control once Lynx became a thing. We're not going to talk about that.
Mikey doesn't know what we're talking about, so we'll move on.
I have no idea what you.
Well, we'll just move on as the pendulum. Wait, what? Strikes.
With the swing of the pendulum, we'll move to the next card.
Yep.
Run card. Aggressive. Rolls violet, blue, and red, which I must say is a very unique combination of dice. The
Blue
cards.
plus red equals purple.
There you go.
Sixes and sevens.
Sixes and sevens is the card title. Let me read it here. Allows a player to steal one bunny, carrot, zodiac, mysterious place, underground station, atomic pastry, and relative from each player if a 6 or 7 is rolled on every die. Each die may be rolled 3 times.
Relative? What's a relative?
A relative is something we don't know yet and same goes for atomic pastry, because those are coming in future expansions. But from the things that we do know, what are your initial thoughts, Chris?
I think the green ball with red stripe is an atomic pastry.
I can officially say that is not the case.
Drat. Okay then. I think it's amazing. It sounds like a really good card. Is it and?
And
Well,
from
that's
each player.
great.
From each player, not just one.
From each-
Ooh, I didn't even know
That's
that.
very good. Isn't that other card the special that makes it the roll of 4 or 5? Is that applying the 6 and 7?
If you're talking about Aaron at 8, then no.
No, it's the other one. It's the lover one. The heart. It has hearts on
Yeah,
it.
that's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Aaron at
never
8
mind.
turns them all into rolls of 8. And of course,
I
Ice
think with
9
pawns,
doesn't work with it.
with pawns, it's not that hard to roll 6s and 7s. Being able to steal that much stuff is really incredible. Yeah, reroll should get you there.
Oh yeah.
You would hope.
If you have a couple pawns and get up to 4 or 5 times per roll, that's doable. You would think. And then once you actually attempt to do it, it won't actually work, but that's fine. What do you think, Mikey?
What you do is you either I have so if you get 2 violet, 2 red, 2 blue, and an omega pawn.
And 2 omega pawns, how about that?
You're
pawn cloning
there
it.
we go. There we go. You could have, let's see, you get 3 rolls already. You could have 6. No, wait. Let me think here. Yeah, 6 rolls.
6 rolls. Plus the red timid. That's 7.
Yeah.
Plus the red
Wow.
truculent, that's 8.
Goodness. That's great. We'll just
Plus
Not to
roll
mention white
substitution.
stuff.
Yeah, roll substitution in white and pink, which of course will also synergize with double pink pawn and the omegas, so you gain.
And if you have all that stuff, you probably are the one that has all the things you're trying to steal.
Feels bad.
ooh, but that would be kind of, I like that it's and not or. So if you're playing an 8-player game and everybody has, well, how many underground stations are there?
10 currently, soon 12.
10? Oh, okay. If you're playing an 8-player game and everybody has exactly one of those things, you're
That's a
gonna
lot
be
of value.
You are going to be a
set.
target.
It's gonna be great.
Should we calculate the exact objective value?
Look,
In an 8-player game, you would have 7 bunnies, that's $70, plus 7 carrots, that's another $70, plus 7 zodiacs. Now zodiacs are worth a bit less. They're worth about, what is it, $1 to $2? We'll say 1.5. So that's another $10.5 there. Mysterious places are worth very little. They're worth about $0.1. That's another plus 0.7. We don't know what the underground stations are worth because it's a very difficult thing to calculate, but let's just estimate $1 each, just to be very lenient. Therefore, from the stuff we have right now, in a successful 8-player game, we would gain $158.2. However, it's double that because you're stealing them, not just gaining them. So it's actually $316.4 value in one card because stealing is worth double. So you get the. Did you need to walk outside?
Sorry!
Rip.
I'll explain in a second.
Okay. Chris is going on
No.
an adventure.
I have to get mittens in the house.
Oof.
My only thought with the card, and I think you're gonna think of it too, is what's gonna happen is I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna get a lot of stuff. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna play much more on me and then I'm gonna cry.
There we go. Much more is the hard counter. Although much more won't affect the undergrounds, the pastry, and the relatives.
So you're talking about the things we don't have yet.
Well, the undergrounds will have.
Right.
I do know what the pastries are, but we'll save that for cake batter because they're coming there. Relatives, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what booster they're coming in. I actually don't know about them. There we go.
Yeah.
We found an instance where I don't know the spoiler. Yay. Perhaps
What?
in the relativity booster deck, which is 4 decks after London. So we got a while. 2 years from now, we will know what the relatives are, perhaps. But currently, $316.4 value. For the condition that requires, that's honestly a relatively high amount. Getting 6 and 7 on each die, when each die is rolled 3 times, it doesn't sound that difficult. To make a comparison, Shuffleboard gives you 1 carrot, and you don't get the rerolls.
That's true.
Shuffleboard is not a fair comparison.
I'm gonna mute my mic while I go back to the house.
Sounds like a plan.
I'll be back.
So yeah, we have a very exciting card. We'll see if it actually becomes relevant. The thing is, it does in order to get that large amount of value, it does require that your opponents all have those things, and maybe in an 8-player game, not everyone has a bunny. Everyone probably has a carrot. Maybe not everyone has a Zodiac or Mysterious Place. Surely not everyone has a Underground Station. But if they do, that's a lot of value. And it does roll the red die note, which is relevant for the Underground Stations. At least the ones we have currently. Is there anything else that we want to say on this card? Before we move on to our last card for the discussion.
I have one thing. I wish she could have come up with a better drawing for it. It's kind of generic.
Feels bad, Jonathan. Now, here's the question. Do these dice follow the counting method or the consistent sum method? Uh-oh. That's like the counting method. Wait, that one's the counting method. I can't. You can tell from the 7 and then it goes 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Consistent sum, everything would add up to 13. I can't tell for sure in the other dice. Maybe.
Sounds like a cow. Goodness.
That's a store. Cows. We could actually get a cow on Bunny Banter.
We should interview a cow. That would be great.
What are your thoughts on the passivity meta cow?
You could ask my new cow.
There you go. That'd be exciting.
That would you have to go outside again.
Her name's Daphne.
Ooh,
Daphne.
very nice.
Now you need one named Velma.
Ooh. It's not that Daphne. Ooh, that could be the prize for this Bunny Banner episode. Who can name the reference from where my Daphne is from?
I will be sufficiently impressed if someone guesses it. There we go. We have a contest. Name the Daphne that Chris is referring to without any hints.
I could give a hint.
I don't know if we have. If you give a hint, it'll be too obvious.
I suppose.
If we have any correct guesses, do we have a prize?
Well, we still have that Swiffer duster.
We have the Swiffer. There we go. Name the correct reference that Chris is referring to without any
It's
hints.
it is.
And if
I'll
you
give you a hint.
no,
It
no,
is.
no,
It
hints,
is
no
a.
hints. Class.
Well, you don't you think you should give like a type
Nah.
of thing it's from?
No, it'd
kinda
be too
thing?
obvious. Be too obvious.
Okay.
No hints. If anyone gets it within from the release of this Bunny Banter to the release of next Bunny Banter, which will be difficult since we'll actually have to announce it with Bunny Banter episode 11 since we record these early. But if anyone gets it, we will send the Swiffer signed
No.
as though we were famous. And that'll be exciting. So there you go. There's your contest for this week. This 2 weeks. Okay. Moving on to the last card for the day. And this card's a bit out of order, but I decided it fits with how I organize the cards for discussions.
Ooh, wait, I do have a hint. I do have a hint that won't break it.
Okay, go ahead.
It is a reference that Jeff should put into the game.
Okay. There we go. That's a fair hint. There you go, Jeff.
That's
so once
not
you
a hint at all.
once you find out, Jeff, what it is, then you will know to put a reference in the game in Chris's honor as the official Killer Bunnies prophet. Okay.
I still want burrowing bunnies instead.
We'll make the custom card.
I wasn't in the episode. Sorry.
Make the card. Okay.
We'll do that over Christmas. It'll be great.
I'll be busy over Christmas, but okay. We'll get there later. Final card for today, a play immediately terrible misfortune. Uh-oh. The text reads, hold on, I put away my text. There we go. While busking for pounds on the London Underground, one of your bunnies is trampled by cavalier commuters. May only be given to a bunny on a Underground station. So here we have the first and perhaps the last example of a terrible misfortune that may only affect Underground bunnies, or bunnies inside Underground stations. What are your thoughts,
Oh,
Mikey?
that's kind of neat. I was just originally thinking, oh, it's just another terrible misfortune. That's just going to go pretty fast talking about it. But that's interesting. That it only affects people in underground stations. So if you draw that and you don't have one in a underground station, hey, you're good. But oh, what was the bunny that we talked about last episode?
Day trippers.
That day trippers. This would affect day trippers.
That is true, unless he has a halo.
True. Oh yeah, we talked about the halo. Yeah, never mind. Forget about that part. Huh. That's interesting. I kind of like it.
It's pretty cool.
Yes.
What do you think, Chris?
I'm excited if we can, if you don't have the bunny that fits the category, usually with a misfortune you're able to cast it. Is that something we can do with this if somebody else has the underground
Yep,
station?
we can assume that's the case.
Well, that's very exciting.
Oh yeah. Something to note that is usually, or at least with London in the future, this might be a bit different. But usually the underground stations will have some high value bunny in them because, of course, the way a bunny gets inside a underground station is somebody gives a bunny an oyster cracker, and then when someone gets a certain roll on the red die, based on the number of the underground station, that player can steal the bunny with the oyster cracker. So usually the strategy that's intended is to place the oyster cracker on something like the extra super pink bunny, and then you have a relevant amount of opportunities to steal it while it's still alive. So this misfortune, realistically speaking, will almost always hit a high value target.
Yeah.
And hopefully you're
It
not
does
the
give us
one using the underground station.
it does give a strict counter to having underground stations.
It does, and that's always nice, is having strict counters to mechanics that might get out of hand, as we established in the last episode, as we started discovering combos with day trippers. That definitely make me very excited as someone testing out the aggressive passive hybrid strategies. But this card would counter some of those. It's always good to have that. Anything else we wanted to say on it before we close?
Can't think of anything.
Okay. So thank you everyone for listening to the Bunny Banter. If you have any topic suggestions, feel free to send them in, or if you'd like to be a future guest, feel free to message me. Thank you, Chris, for being a guest again today and discussing London with us.
Absolutely.
We will have one more discussion on the London booster before release. This discussion is set to be released October 4th, so that one will be released October 18th, leading up into late October for the actual release. And maybe we'll have, I don't know, maybe we'll fit in some sort of afterthoughts discussion once we've had sufficient opportunities to actually play with the cards. You know, was Day Trippers actually as impactful as we thought it would be? Probably not. But maybe we'll do that. So thank you everyone for listening / watching today, and anything you'd like to say, Mikey?
Jeff bless.
Jeff bless.